This is a regular meeting of the Mayor Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, July 2nd, 2019.
Being that it's 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Clerk, can you read the sunshine law?
Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice which has been posted on the bulletin board, filed with the Borough Clerk, and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, and Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Thank you. Can we please have a roll call?
Councilman Sheridan.
Here.
Councilman Cooper.
Here.
Councilman Good.
Here.
Councilwoman Pacheco.
Here.
Councilman Patopoulos.
Here.
Councilwoman McDermott.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here. As a courtesy to those around you, if everyone could please silence their cell phones. If we could please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can remain standing for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. We do have an item that's not listed on the agenda tonight to have at the beginning of the meeting, and that is the employees of the Visiting Nurse Association, which is located right here in downtown Keyport on East Front Street. Mr. Gallo, myself, and Jack Straub had the opportunity to meet with them and hear about what services they have to offer to our community. I believe all three of us were surprised to hear the lengthy services that they have to offer. So we are giving them the opportunity to just go on record and say what they have to offer to our community. So if you could please come forward. Thank you.
We know you have a busy agenda and this is a busy week, so we will really keep it brief. Again, I just wanted to really thank the mayor and Mr. Gallo and Steve who had the opportunity, because I think a lot of times when you walk by a building, you're not necessarily sure what it is going on. And we actually wanted to share with you that you actually have a gem less than a half a mile from where we are right now. And what we have there is a community health center. And no need to go into how it's funded. It's a federally qualified health center. And I'm going to have the ladies that run it and do some outreach, talk about the particular services. But we wanted you to know that our company, actually we have 4. We have a new one in Freehold, and in Monmouth County there is one in Red Bank, and also in the fine city of Asbury Park, like Keyport. But Keyport has recently been, this facility has been renovated, and I just want to say that we would welcome anyone who would like to stop by for a tour and just really show you what we're offering the community. And I know you have a packet, and I'm not going to go, take a lot of time, but I do think that what's particularly important, the ladies will talk about the clinical services, but I think we all know that in this day and time, it's really very easy to end up not having any health insurance and coverage. And our center provides what we call primary care. That means there are people that will assume clinicians all of your health needs, everything from wellness to having babies, children, pediatrics, immunizations, they'll go into it. But all in one location by people that live and know your community very well. And we just thought this might be a nice opportunity to kind of introduce ourselves. My name is Linda Savino. I work with the organization that runs the health center.
I'm Samantha Purnell. I'm the practice manager in the Keyport and Red Bank sites.
I'm Digna Diaz. I'm the community outreach manager for all sites.
I'm Caroline Marte. I'm the patient navigator bilingual in Keyport.
And what I'm just going to have them all do very briefly is really share with you, and we're going to keep it to a minute or less per person, what we can do to help your community. And that was the reason we wanted to reach out, not just to the leadership, but to everyone else in town who was here tonight, who might be able to pass the word if anybody's in struggling or in need. There's a lot of things we can do to make your life better. Okay, so I'm going to step aside, and I'm just going to chime in.
I'm going to start. I'm patient navigator. One of my roles is to make sure that anyone that comes through our doors is connected to health insurance. We are a certified FQHC. We do marketplace insurance, and we also do the Medicaid insurance applications for you on site. I also can do food stamp applications. We have many referrals that we can refer out. We have the dental clinic within our site also that just recently opened. You can make an appointment. You don't need an appointment. We have walk-ins. I'm there 5 days a week.
The sliding scale, maybe?
Sliding scale. We do see people without insurance that don't qualify for Medicaid or can't afford the marketplace insurance to purchase. We do work off of the sliding scale fee, which is an income-based program. We do not turn anyone away. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to my counterparts.
All right, so I'm going to tell you the services that we offer in Keyport. So we have primary care, we have prenatal care in our site on Wednesdays, we have chiropractor, we have behavioral health, we have a new dental that's there on Tuesdays right now, but we're going to go more in the future. We do wellness visits, we do all immunizations there for pediatric, sick visits, wellness visits. We have a nutritionist that's on site there also. And our other sites have a little more services like podiatry and sports medicine, but that we have MDs and nurse practitioners that are on site there.
So I'll just end this with saying that aside from having our primary doctors there and our dental services, we have other services to help our communities. One being the patient navigators will be there. There's one navigator at each site to help you with any of your needs or help you with your barriers. And when I say barriers, it could go from anywhere from finding your specialist to finding out what your options are for insurance or what your payments might be or what other services you qualify for that might be in the county or part of the state. So we're right here down the street. We're open 6 days a week. So if any of you are interested, you could stop by, ask for either Caroline or Samantha, and they'll be able to give you a tour of the site. Thank you.
And should you need blood work, they
Yeah, we
didn't
have a lab on
mention
site.
that
We
you
do have
can
a lab
get
on
your
site.
blood work done right there as well, so you don't need to go off. And last year, over 3,100 residents in the area did utilize our services. So if you hear, I would ask because the feedback that we've gotten is people feel very well cared for there. And being cared for is not just, having clinicians that know what they're doing, but also someone who truly cares about you and will ask you if you need other types of support. And that's what we're there for.
We also, I forgot to say, we do have a WIC that's in our site every third Monday too, if anybody doesn't want to travel outside to go to WIC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the
They
opportunity.
summarized that much better than I could have.
Yes. Ladies, do we have one more packet we could pass along? Yes.
That's a complete one.
And then if we need any others, we can definitely get them made and drop them off at Town Hall. How's that?
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And happy 4th of July.
Thank you. we'll move on to the administrator's report.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and council members on the dais, citizens here in the chamber. I'll briefly report on some of the activities that I've been involved in over the past 2 weeks since our last meeting, and then answer any questions that may arise. Since our last meeting, I held the following meetings. We had a transition conference with our new phone company that should be moving forward within the next couple of weeks. We held interviews for replacement violations clerk. We met with the summer camp recreation director. We met with the Keyport MAC coordinator and committee members, participated in Monmouth Tourism Day Shore Summer Kickoff event here in Keyport. Met with Dr. Savoya of the Keyport Board of Ed, held a meeting regarding recycling. We interviewed Summer Health. I had a meeting with Mayor Kennedy, coordinated a meeting with developer Bob Dickerson about one of his projects in town. We had a meeting with the county CDBG coordinators regarding our applications for 2019. We had a conference call with EP&G regarding energy procurement. Participated in an OEM prep meeting with Councilmember Sheridan and OEM Director Ken Crow. I attended a police commission meeting. I attended a recreation committee meeting. We had a meeting with the mayor and the garden club, and we had a progress meeting on 149 West Front Street, the former Yee Cottage Inn site. With regard to open borough projects, we're still waiting for the project kickoff for the Beach Park and Beer Street outfall reconstruction. Hopefully we'll begin within the next couple of weeks. The improvements to Benjamin Terry and Veteran Park are just about complete. The only 2 outstanding items include the kayak condos, which are under construction and should be completed very soon, and a change order for a replacement swing set, which we'll be processing hopefully at our next meeting. No action has taken place with regard to the DPW building on Rollo Place, but we did locate additional borough-owned property at the recycling yard that can accommodate dumpsters that are presently stored at Rollo Place, so that will free up more space at that location, which is what we're hoping for. With regard to scattered site redevelopment, we have a resolution on our agenda regarding the preparation of a redevelopment plan for 75 Manchester by Beacon Planning, hoping to move some form of project forward at 75 Manchester. 333 First Street has graded their lot, and they appear to be ready to break ground. I've also heard that they are entertaining offers to purchase the entire project. Current road project that's underway is essentially complete. There are some punch list items, and they still have to address Walnut Terrace, and they are working up on Monroe Street this week. They're doing sidewalk and concrete work. And then there's going to have to be a period of settlement for the water main that's being installed, and then they'll resurface the whole street after it's had an opportunity to settle. The Phase 2 and Phase 3 of the projects are in design phase, and the surveys are completed. The engineer is designing them for bidding this summer, and hopefully award of a contract as soon as possible. TAP grant design is also with the engineers now. DOT is negotiating a contract with CME to assist us in this project. Main Street Park, we have the bids were received on 725, and a recommendation for award is on for this meeting. Hopefully to break ground within the next 2 weeks and get that project underway. We've also applied for Green Acre funding for Jack Conway Park, and we're expecting to refurbish that park within the coming year. We're also looking for funding for refurbishing both Teresa Street Park and Cedar Street Park. We're also hoping to do some work at Mini Park next year to upgrade certain facilities there. And we're looking for a site to develop a Keyport Dog Park. Status of redevelopment projects. I spoke with Roger Miller, one of the partners on Mariners Village, and they have filed their CAFR permit, and they're currently working on a revised site plan for the marina for the improvements necessary to accommodate the project. They're also moving forward finalizing their engineering and architectural plans that they intend to meet the project deadlines in the redevelopers agreement. On Aero Marine, I have a meeting with Redevelopment Council next week to decide what our next steps are going to be. We're also asking them to send the developer a letter asking for a copy of their landfill closure plan, which they must file. Scattered sites, as I mentioned, a lot of the individual sites have spontaneously entered the redevelopment process and are redeveloping on their own. A lot of them are being renovated and flipped. 75 Manchester is up for discussion at this meeting with the redevelopment plan going forward, and 333 First Street appears ready to be moving forward. We've also discussed in concept the potential for building a parking deck on the main parking lot between Front and Broad and Main Street in the center of the donut hole there. I have a meeting again scheduled next week with our redevelopment council, and I've pretty much arrived at the decision that we should engage a parking consultant to do a needs assessment of the entire community, as well as the feasibility of building this deck and looking at various methods of financing it. So that's something that we'll talk about moving forward. Longview Boat Works, I spoke with one of the principals of PRC this morning. Apparently they haven't received a lot of emails that I've sent to them, but the owner of the company is available on Monday for a conference call to provide us with an update. And simultaneous, and maybe apropos of nothing, they had a representative in Borough Hall yesterday who was arranging for different permits and paying certain sums of money that they owed us. So hopefully that's an indication that they're going to move forward. We met today with the project owner for 149 West Front Street. That's the Ye Cottage Inn property, who informs us that the reason for his delay is the restoration of their bulkhead. They originally thought they could construct the building and deal with the bulkhead later, but it's become in such a sad state that they need to take immediate action to maintain the integrity of the land at that location. They have hired a competent engineer who's well known to us, and this morning we came to the agreement that they will put safety fencing guarding the damaged bulkhead to be installed this week. They have also agreed to maintain the silt fencing, control vegetation, and he's agreed to construct a dumpster enclosure within the next 2 weeks. He expects to have the bulkhead completely restored and raised by October and be under construction with this project in the spring. He definitely intends to move forward with it, and we agreed to meet in a month's time to assess his progress on all the things that we agreed to. Perry Street Water Treatment Plant is moving along fine. There's no problems with that. We did have some issues with the bike share program and the mysterious disappearing bikes, but they appear to have reappeared to some degree. I'm counting that there's a larger number than there was when we last spoke. So hopefully they're restoring them, and I do have an email to the president of the company to see what the status is. Complete Streets and Pedestrian Safety, the RFP for our Complete Streets related services has been finalized by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, and they are issuing it, and they expect that there'll be a robust review process, and then they'll award the contract in September. The contract is to draft a Complete Streets policy for us to have a number of community-based meetings to do a walkability assessment in the entire community, to draft a Complete Streets ordinance for us to adopt, and to plan and execute a Complete Streets demonstration project. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on with that. But again, the process is very slow. Unfortunately, when you're using federal money, there's all kinds of tick marks you have to hit before you can move forward. County dispatch seems to be moving along fine. There are minimal complaints that apparently are dealt with at the lowest possible level. Flood control ordinances, Trevor met with Mike Lane, and they have a few outstanding issues, so hopefully we'll have a draft within the next week or so, and we can introduce later on this month. We're working with the neighboring towns on a dialogue with shared services, and we're also talking to the county about a number of shared services. We're also working with our technology consultants on public Wi-Fi in Borough Hall for a start, and we're moving forward with our telephone conversion, which should happen before July is complete. We just received word a couple of hours ago that the state has issued guidance regarding the library bond issue. So we're ready to move forward with that. We have the work that we want to do outlined, and we're ready to apply for that funding, which will be 50% grant, 50% low interest loan, probably issued in 2020. Summer recreation kicked off on Monday. We have 78 campers, and things seem to be going fairly well. I stopped by, observed basically the organized chaos you might expect with little kids. But everybody seemed to be smiling and laughing, so that was pretty cool. Summer programs, our yoga, Pilates, and Tai Chi programs are proving to be very successful and popular. I think that that's a hit, and we should continue to do that. KBB summer concerts are well received on the new stage that we cooperatively purchased with the KBBC, and we're getting increasing crowds. Dogs Night Out was an unqualified success. The town was mobbed. Personally, I went out and tried to get dinner in a number of local restaurants, and I got turned away because they were so busy. And the summer movies have begun. The first one was a little slow, but last week Ralph Breaks the Internet was very well attended. This coming Friday, we have Captain Marvel, which is a great movie, and everyone is welcome to come out at dusk to watch that. We're continuing to work with our assigned fellow from the Natural Resources Defense Fund, who is working with our green team to come up with strategies to get more points and hopefully go for silver status this year. We're also looking at the direct install applications that we filed, trying to get energy improvements constructed with state funds, and we're also working with a consultant who will assist us in getting what they say is a 25% discount off of what we're currently paying for gas and electricity. We did receive notice that we've been awarded an NPP grant, which the focus of our application was on the Route 36 and Route 35 corridors. So we're looking to try and revitalize those areas, and the first step will be a plan, an assessment of those properties and how they can best be deployed to encourage business to locate there. And finally, with regard to hazard mitigation, we had a meeting yesterday with Joe Sheridan and Ken Crow about outstanding items on the OEM list for preparation, and we're doing a good job of trying to get everything that we need and address the issues that were on the list for a long time. And we're also working with the county to upgrade the things on our hazard mitigation plan, which is basically a list of those things that we want to accomplish that could then be applied for under FEMA grants. They have to be on the list in order to apply for them. So I'm going to submit the list next week, and hopefully we can start applying for grants. That's what I've been up to, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yes.
May I ask a question? First, I want to congratulate you on getting the Keyport Monmouth Tourism Committee to come here. That was a nicely attended event, and I was impressed. That was wonderful for the borough, even though it rained, and we had to have it in.
With the yellow walls
Yeah.
pretending that it's the
It was the
sunshine.
sunshine, yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
The 331 First Street, you briefly addressed that.
Sure.
Would you mind going into a little bit of detail?
Absolutely. This is a project that had an approval many years ago for another townhomes, or they look like townhomes. It's a rental project. It was wiped out by the hurricane, and for a long time it sat. We managed to compel them through our code enforcement process to demo the building and to grade the property. First they tore the building down, and then we were left with a mud hole that was filled with water. We've recently encouraged them to grade the property. If you go by there today, there's a number of mounds of clean fill that they're leveling it off with. They did receive a number of fines because they were moving a little bit too slowly. I think they paid a $2,000 fine last week. And they are, I know someone who's interested in purchasing the property, and I know that they're in negotiations with them for that purpose. But the site is, it needs a little bit more attention. There are too many high weeds on the sidewalk. It's almost impassable. They did put up a construction fence around the project, but we need to see some more progress in either moving forward or buttoning the site up. We may be asking the council to consider an ordinance requiring that construction sites or approved projects that are not moving forward have a decorative screening fence put around the facility so that it doesn't look like an active construction site where nobody's doing anything. So that's something that I expect to bring forward at the next meeting.
That was a good project. That was townhomes, actually.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't rental. They were
Sure.
purchased townhomes, and it was anywhere between 15 and 24. I can't remember the exact.
It was a little tight,
Yeah, but
Hopefully it'll go forward.
hopefully, thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Any more questions? A few updates on the mayor's report. I want to remind everyone that the KBBC is sponsoring live music from 7 to 9 in the mini park right here. Keyport doesn't do fireworks on the 4th of July for several reasons, one being that that's the most expensive day of the year to have them. and we don't need to have them, then we can look out at our wonderful bay and see a complete view from Perth Amboy all the way over to New York City. But prior to the fireworks, KBBC is providing live music on the new stage in the mini park from 7 to 9, so that's exciting. Thank you, Councilman, again, for your comments before. I'd like just to go on record and say that that was definitely a collaborative effort, and Freehold Director Tom Arnone hearing our concerns at a tourism meeting and agreeing to make some changes. He met with his colleagues, and he stood here in this room publicly saying that they have admitted that they have been neglecting the Bay Shore, and they are making huge strides to change that. And I have already seen him put his words into action. So I think it was a great bipartisan effort, and from that also we have kicked off and had 2 meetings so far on the Bay Shore 2020 initiative, which is going to be focusing on all the different things all the municipalities along 36 corridor have to offer, besides just people getting off and thinking it's only Sandy Hook. Each one of the municipalities have unique things, and we're going to be working on highlighting all those things together. And our goal is to come up with a compiled list before October of the inventory of those towns, who has spray parks, who has promenades, who has outdoor dining, who has museums, who has something to do in the rain, who has something to do in the snow, so that people know that there's lots of things to come here for a day trip, any season of the year and any weather. So that's an exciting initiative that is well underway, and our goal is to have all that done into print by October, so that we could, we need it done by October so that it could go to print in November and December, so that the tourism, County Tourism can bring it to the trade shows that they do in January, February, and March. They did several of them this past winter, from the Philadelphia Flower Show to a show in Connecticut and all the way up to Canada. So I do believe that the Bay Shore area will be back on the map in a well-received way very soon. So those are my updates. And now we will move on to the consent agenda, and the clerk will read the items on the consent agenda.
Resolution 21119 is payment of bills. Resolution 21219 is awarding the contract for the preparation of a redevelopment plan for properties identified as Block 120, lots 8 and 9, and Block 130, lots 42, 48, 49, 50, 51, and 52, in the tax map of the borough, and that's awarded to Beacon Planning. Resolution 21319 authorizes the lease agreement for the use of the Keyport Boathouse and related services. That's awarded to a Canoe to You for a fee of $300. Resolution 21419 authorizes the award of a contract for improvements to Main Street Park to V&K Construction. They were awarded the base bid plus the bid Alt A for an amount of $511,660. Resolution 21519 authorizes the hiring of 1 police officer, David Doucette. Resolution 21619 authorizes hiring a part-time violations clerk for the Keyport Municipal Court as Jacqueline Shipley. Resolution 21719 requests approval of items of revenue and appropriation under NJSA 40A:4-87. That's for the Office on Aging. Resolution 21819 is the 2019-2020 liquor license renewal for Fantasies Inc. Resolution 22019 is the 2019-2020 liquor license renewal for Keyport Liquor 56. That's on Broad Street, trading as Keyport Liquor in Dallas.
Can I just clarify, 220 was added because of paperwork with the state, and what is R219?
R219 is the resolution for the public hearing in the dock.
And before we go into public portion, Mr. Gallo, just for the members of the public that are here, R21419 is for the improvements to Main Street Park, which is extremely exciting. But can you just clarify, a majority of that is coming from grants?
Oh, sure, yeah. This has been a long time in coming. Obviously, it's something that we've worked on collectively for several years, and before that, there was fits and starts with regard to the possibility of having a skate park. These improvements do include a skate park feature, as well as new playground equipment, exercise stations along the Henry Hudson Trail, a refurbishment of the existing ball field, and general site improvements around the facility. The majority of the funding for this project is coming from grants, including a county open space grant, a CDBG grant, a grant from the Tony Hawk Foundation, and a grant that we received from the, I think it was Game Time for the playground equipment. So we worked hard to come up with other means of paying for this. There was a little bit of a delay because our insurance carrier requires a certain type of fence, and that bumped up the cost a little bit to be put around the skate park. But this bid will award everything that's related to the project, and we're eager to get construction started. A pre-construction meeting, assuming that the contract's approved this evening, is scheduled for, I believe, next Thursday, Trevor? Yeah, next Thursday, and then we're off to the races. We want to get this thing built. We want the community to enjoy the improvements at this park, just like they're enjoying the ones at Terry and Veterans Park.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Does anyone on the dais have any questions or comments before we open to the public for the consent agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to object to R220. I'd like it pulled. As of 45 minutes ago, this resolution didn't exist. So we've been sent 6 months saying that we're cutting off the agenda from last Wednesday before so we could get it sent. I don't think anybody on this dais has actually gotten a chance to read or review the resolution and the application or anything. So I think that it sets bad precedent. It goes against everything you've said for the last 6 months about closing whatever's listed on the agenda the Wednesday before. So now this, as we're walking up, we get a liquor license renewal. Despite the fact that the documents were coming in from the state, we have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Anyone else? Commentary before we open to the public?
I agree with Mr. Good. If it's not gonna hurt.
Okay. I make a motion open to the public for resolution items R211 through 218 only for this public portion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Blue?
Sorry.
Sorry. Hello, everybody. There, I know you had the microphones fixed. However, you guys still a little too low. It's a little too low for me.
Sorry.
If we can talk either into the microphone or make it a little bit louder, it'd be nice. I do have a problem with hearing. It's probably nobody else here but me. And I sit in the front for that reason. Also, when you guys are on tape, you know, when we get a tape from you, it's very hard to understand who is talking. How can we remedize that? In other words, you don't know who's talking. Maybe you can say your name. You know, when you get a tape or something and you can't understand. Have you guys ever listened to the tapes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Huh? They're pretty tough, right?
It gets-
What can we do to make that easier on everybody?
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I think Mr. Gallo was going to comment on that.
Sure.
We have received proposals to videotape the meetings and to live stream them while they occur and then archive them for public access. And also to upgrade the microphone system and have real-time controls that you can say, hey, I can't hear you, so you just slide it on an iPad and the sound gets better. So I gotta find the money to fund those improvements, but if that's the case, instead of getting an audio tape where you couldn't see who was talking, you could get a videotape online that you could actually see who was talking. So that's something that we hope we can get off the ground in the
Well,
near
you're
future.
working on it, right?
Yeah.
I thought they were fixed for a while because I didn't hear that speech and what
Yeah.
you're going through.
They
They
were
must have fixed
repaired.
that.
Yeah, and one of the things we ran into is apparently there's like only one company in the whole state that does this sort of thing for governments, and we
Just a
actually.
little bit louder, I mean, I'm not the only one who
Understood.
complains about it, maybe they're afraid to say anything, but
Sure.
It's pretty tough to hear you guys.
All right, we'll definitely look at turning the volume up.
On another note, on a good note, Steve, I just wanna let you know, you're a mover and a shaker. Ever since you come into this town, you've been doing nothing but spending your taxpayer money in a good way. Okay? So, I'm waiting for the outcome, because everything you're doing is, we're not used to this. You're moving a little bit too fast for us. Or, not fast for me, but.
I'm happy to slow down.
You're really doing a terrific job, and I know you got good people behind you. Another thing I wanted to say, you just finished the dumpster product, or the project in the back that's been going on for quite some time.
Ed, Mr. Baloo, I'm sorry. Is this on the consent agenda?
No,
Can you please-
can I
know
just
there's
say,
all
because I'm gonna run out of time anyway, all right? And I really don't wanna stay after 9 o'clock. Hey, real quick, I just wanna let you know you guys did a fantastic job putting that together. I'm sure you have a good engineer, Travis. I was kinda wondering how you were gonna satisfy everybody back there. And the way you guys laid that out is absolutely perfect. I really, I said to myself, they're never gonna satisfy a homeowner back there.
I've learned in this business that trying to satisfy everybody is a fool's errand, and you wind up satisfying no one.
Well, I think you satisfied quite a few people in reference to that. So what I'll do is I'll save my time for a little later on. But I know you got good engineering there. I know you had to have help on this. You had a nice contractor, got in and out. Thank you. How much time do I got left when I come back?
Is the
3 minutes?
-2.
Is the administrative report considered part of the consent agenda?
Sure.
Andrew Kelsey, 29 St. Peter's Place. Just to quickly address Ed's comments about the microphones, you guys gotta get close to the mics when you talk. I mean, that's a big issue. So it's not just the system itself. So, on the topic of parking, are we not doing a parking committee?
We can certainly do that. Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay, because I did hear that you're considering getting a consultant in,
That's correct.
which is a good idea, but still, we really need to probably discuss a lot of things that they're not gonna cover. And in addition to all that, I'm not trying to beat Steve up about the idea, but the proposed idea for this garage as is ill-informed
What proposal?
for the parking garage.
No, is there a proposal? Is that what you're saying?
It's being proposed to the public that,
Oh, proposed, not, there's no, but you're not saying
There's
that
no
there is a
formal
proposal.
oh, no, but
Right.
it's being
Sorry,
pursued.
that's what I was asking.
Okay,
Suggested.
yeah, it's being pursued and certainly, you know, being on sale to the public to get the public on board, but generally speaking, as I was saying, it's ill-informed and it's premature to pursue something like this. We really need to know what the issues are, what Keyport needs, and to pursue an idea of adding more parking to the borough without knowing how many spots we need is not a good one.
Now, I believe I mentioned earlier that we're planning on engaging a parking consultant to do a complete needs analysis for the community, which would be the first step.
Yes, I understand, but you're also selling the idea to the public.
I'm not selling anything, okay?
Well, there's elevations that are presented at the complete streets. I mean, people are,
No, those elevations were from another town, Andrew.
I don't think anybody knew that. I certainly didn't know that.
Okay, yeah, well, that's
And
probably our
and the
bad,
problem is when you start telling everybody that this is a possibility and we might be able to do this, and it turns out it's not the best idea, that other ideas are preferred, it's going to be hard to push those other ideas.
Yeah, we're certainly open to discussing any ideas. That was, it was a picture, okay, that's all it was.
Steve, please don't,
Please don't what?
like,
It was a picture, I can show it to you.
no, I know, but you're trying to make like, I'm over interpreting what you presented.
It was a picture, or you can interpret it any way you want.
I don't think that's a fair assessment, Steve. I don't think you need to discredit me in that way, really.
Okay? Yeah.
So, and like I said, I'm not trying to beat you up on the idea. I think your idea is clever, I just don't think it serves the needs of the town in the right way. That's all.
There'll be plenty of dialogue on it, and the community.
So, and certainly in passing there, you ran the idea of having a parking committee, and I think that's a great idea, and the parking garage, this book, The High Cost of Free Parking, as mentioned by Steve's guest speaker, I don't remember his last name. This was written by an economist in 2005 about parking and how to address it and properly manage it. And everything about that garage as proposed so far is the antithesis to what's in this book. This book is a toolbox. There's a lot of information and ways to manage parking before you get to adding more parking supply. This book came out last year, is stories of all the successful implementations of these tools. So I certainly urge the borough to stop pushing the idea to the public for this garage while you have yet to determine whether the need is there or not. And I can certainly think of more valuable ideas if you're willing to develop that parcel that will be better for Keyport in the long term, because unused parking spaces have no value to the borough. So I'd be happy to discuss this further with anybody, and you know, that's it. I would really like to see a parking committee so we can get together and have these discussions in full and work on these ideas in full. But it seems like the borough's pushing ahead on the garage and pursuing the garage without knowing what the parking needs of the borough are. And I did share with you guys the parking report from Red Bank, and I think it was a great example of how everybody's perception was quite different than reality. So I'm not even saying my perception is correct. We need to go out and study the issue so we know exactly what it is. But whatever group that was in Red Bank was demanding 1,000 new parking spaces, and when the consultant got done, they said at worst case, the very worst case, they need 200 more spaces. And parking garages are not cheap. They cost money to maintain, and they're hard to turn into something else once they're built and they're not needed. So it's all things to consider. Thank you.
Mayor, can I just interject real quick? I'm sorry, I wanted to mention that actually, I hope Steve doesn't mind this, but he and I were talking about that on the side after that meeting, and your suggestion that we may not need the parking garage was intriguing to both of us.
Sure.
So, you know, I think that we're all open to, we definitely want to try and do a parking study if we can get it paid for, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And we definitely are open to finding out exactly what the needs are. So, and if the mayor, I like the mayor's suggestion of the parking committee, so.
Madam Chairman, I'm mystified by Mr. Kelsey's insistence that we're pushing something or that we're trying to get something done. As a matter of fact, the concept was brought to us. It's my obligation to communicate ideas that people would be interested in doing to the board and to the community. But nobody's pushing anything. And as a matter of fact, as I announced earlier in my report, and Dennis and I discussed following the Complete Streets meeting, we are interested in having a complete analysis of our future parking needs conducted by a professional to inform us of what can be financed, the mechanism behind that. So Andrew, we're not in disagreement, as I stated earlier. So I'm mystified by your insisting that we're pushing something. We're not pushing anything.
Okay, well, certainly, I mean, I think if you talk to people that attended that meeting, I think their impression is Keyport's working on getting a garage.
There's a lot of
So-
people who want it too.
Yeah,
but-
Oh, I understand that, but I think if you talk to people that attend that meeting and ask them if they think Keyport's pursuing a garage,
Yeah.
they would agree that that's the case,
In
so.
fact, the only area where the garage came up was a question asking people whether or not they thought it was a good idea. Okay, and that's what the reference of the image that you're talking about. It was a question, okay, asking the community what their opinion was.
Well, I'm certainly communicating my impression
Sure.
of how it came across.
Okay,
And as I said, if that's certainly not your intent, then, you know, let's be a little more considerate in the future.
I've stated our intention 5 times already tonight.
I know, tonight, I'm talking about the
But
meeting,
you're
Steve.
continuing to push back against it.
I'm telling you what happened at the meeting.
I know what happened at the
What
meeting, okay?
impressions that were given.
Yeah, I don't know anybody else who
Mr.
shares your
Kelsey.
impression.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve.
Yes.
Anyway, with all this nonsense back and forth, before we do it, you're gonna have an open public hearing so they can air all this
Oh,
out anyway.
There will be
Many
many,
public
many to discuss it, there will be tons of public input and
And
discussion.
that's the time, that'd be the time to bring up any objections,
Sure.
I would think.
The fact of the matter is, Councilman, we don't know if a deck is the right solution, okay? But we're gonna find out.
You won't know until you have the study.
Sure, absolutely.
And then after the study, you have to review it. and
They
then
will, the
review-
professional will come and present the study to the community, everyone will share their opinion, and we'll be off to the races on some solution.
Mr. Graham?
I'm sorry, do me a favor, I'm gonna just have a second. Let's give you a little more room there. Okay? You should point the microphone out. Thank you.
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. A few things right here. Steve, on Resolution 21219,
Yes,
can you more or less briefly explain that?
sure. As part of our scattered sites redevelopment plan, we included 75 Manchester, which is an industrial building at that address that has long been vacant and has some environmental challenges. We included in the scattered sites redevelopment plan with condemnation to see if we could entice the owner and a potential developer to come in and do something there. There is a contract purchaser who is interested in buying the site. He would like to do certain things at that location. Some of them make sense, some of them don't make sense, but this resolution awards a contract to a bona fide planning firm to develop a redevelopment plan for that site. And the contract includes 2 open public meetings, as well as the requisite meetings before the planning board and the Borough Council. So there'll be a lot of public input on this plan, and it'll be drafted and walk the fine line between what can get built and financed and what the community would like to see.
Okay. All right, Resolution 21319,
Sure.
can you briefly explain that?
This is in response to a solicitation. A company has proposed that they would like to have a kayak rental service, canoe, and stand-up paddleboard service at the Keyport waterfront. They're willing to pay us a sum of money for that privilege. Initially, they wanted to do it for 5 years. I negotiated with them and said, let's try this out for 1 year. So they want to get started, and if you want to go for a canoe or a kayak ride or a tour, they'll work that out with you. They're presently working with the Baykeeper out of the Browns Point Marina, so it's a reputable company, and they have proven that their corporate status, as well as they've provided the related insurance. So I think this is a bonus for visitors and for residents of Keyport who would like to get out on the water in various forms, non-motorized, so it won't be dangerous or upset anybody. Kayaks, canoes, and stand-up paddleboards. I'm looking forward to seeing you on a stand-up paddleboard.
With peaches?
I'm not much of a kayak guy, so,
Yeah, I
but
get
that's okay, but still looking for
A lot of fun, yeah.
Okay. Now, Resolution 21419,
Yes.
now, was this bid was like for what?
Well,
$511,660.
the bid doesn't specify the amount, it specifies the work that we wanna do, and we have proposers who come back and say, I can do that work for this much money. This is the lowest responsible bidder, so, we're bound, to award a contract to them as long as it comes in within our budgetary,
And as long as it's beneficial to taxpayers as well.
Main Street Park's gonna be completely renewed, it'll be a different park when we're done.
All right. Resolution 21719.
Yeah.
Can you more or less briefly explain that?
Again, this is, when we get grants, they need to be inserted in the budget, and in this particular instance, we received, grant funding for the Office on Aging, I believe, from the county, and it needs to be added to the budget, so this resolution does that.
Okay, one last thing,
Sure.
anything new on Governor Murphy coming from town hall?
Not that I've heard.
But we did have 4 freeholders, an assemblyman and
Yeah, well, that's good.
senator here.
It'd be nice if we saw the governor of the state of New Jersey come here to Keyport to,
Now that the budget is resolved, maybe he has more time.
well, yeah, now that he signed a $38 billion budget, that's, I won't get into that, but
Sure.
Thank you,
that's, should have questions for him on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, the cost of the, contract for beacon planning, is that being paid for by?
It's being paid for by the developer through escrow account.
Okay. And also with regard to the canoe, we were gonna make that change to say that the borough is gonna be an additional insured.
Additional insured and fully indemnified, yes.
Steve, they're gonna store their canoes on the beach.
I did meet with him today, and he mentioned that he had a discussion with you, and yes, they're gonna begin their business day so that they're not dragging stuff across the parking lot. Everything will be moved to the waterfront on that side of the parking lot, and they will bring renters over to there, instruct them on the use of the facilities. At the end of the day, they will bring everything over and store it in their trailer.
Thank you.
Doreen?
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I have some questions on resolution. Uh, 2/12/19. Beacon Planning is the new planner in town. What was the process for selecting them?
We go through what's called a fair and open solicitation, where we advertise the opportunity to firms throughout the state and let them propose to be qualified to do work in the borough. In particular, Beacon Planning brought a unique mix of planning experience, a demonstrated track record, their references checked out to be stellar, and they also are skilled at doing the financial analysis behind a plan that enables us to basically do the work. In addition to doing the plan, they also know how to do the finance end of it to demonstrate that, you know, what can be financed and what the rates are, that sort of thing. So they seem to be a good fit for this type of project for us.
Was Hudson Point LLC at the table in this selection process?
No.
I just wanted to, is Hudson Point LLC, are they the designated redeveloper?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, but they're funding this.
They are.
Yeah. I looked at it on the website, I looked up Beacon Planning, and if I was gonna build something in town, I would want them working on my project for me, because if you look at the website, they're gonna really promote and manage a economically viable project.
Sure.
And my concern is the viability of the project for the residents. So I felt a little better when I looked at their proposal, when they talked about the fact that they're going to identify a project that is financially feasible, marketable, and consistent or compliant with the to the surrounding neighborhood. Okay, I'm sorry, consistent are complementary to the surrounding neighborhood. So that's very positive input that wasn't in their information on their website. So I hope that issue of compliance and consistency with the neighborhood will be well.
We have also required that they conduct 2 open public meetings, one a general meeting for the entire borough, and then a more specific neighborhood meeting for people who are directly impacted by the project in the vicinity. They have an excellent track record in other communities. In particular, I had a lengthy conversation with Mayor Dan Ryman from Carteret, who has used them in a number of very successful projects in that community. And he did indicate that they specialize in public meetings and explaining things to the public. So that was a bonus as well.
Yeah, and they're located in the building where my dentist is located.
Well, there you go.
Now, they talked about that they're going to establish immediate lines of communications with local team leaders and committees to further refine the objectives and accountability. So who are these team leaders and what committees are they going to be working with?
Well, the borough maintains a redevelopment committee that meets on a regular basis, so I'm sure there'd be interaction with them. There's also myself as the borough administrator, will be working with them, as well as representatives from the planning board, the zoning officer, and those folks as well. And Mike, you know the door's always open. If you'd like, we'll set up a special meeting with you. You know?
No, not with me, but I would like to talk about putting together a committee of the residents of the neighborhood.
Sure. We do have included in the proposal is a neighborhood meeting with the residents in the area.
Well, I'm talking about at the front end, not the back end when we're out to
Sure.
sell the project. Then they talk about data should be exchanged with the consultant to provide background. And these people are new to Keyport.
Actually, they're not. They've done work in Keyport in the past.
In my 30 years, I've never heard of them, but that's good news.
They were here when I got here.
What have they done with Keyport?
They were working on the waterfront access plan and a number of other projects before that.
Their name doesn't show up on that report on the waterfront access plan.
Interesting.
All right. But one of the things they talk about is they want some data.
Yeah.
And I'm going to suggest that there's some data they need to have up front.
Okay.
And in light of the history of this site. And, this is just 3 short pages.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr.
Enough copies. This is actually, these 3 sheets I've handed out are from the 2007-2008 Hudson Point at Keyport project. And I mentioned that at the last council meeting. One of the things was considered by the land use element team is this very first sheet, that the site at 75 Manchester is completely surrounded by single-family homes. This was in 2008. This is 2008 data, I think, except for one lot. There's 34 single-family homes that surround the site. And that was one of the strong inputs from the land use element team, that whatever's done here has to be in harmony with single-family homes. And I would ask the council, as a representative of the residents, to really make sure that happens. Second, there was a plan, and it's on the second sheet, that was championed by borough officials and very strongly by Mayor Bergen. And it's this picture here. And there was a team of residents, 3 or 4 previous members of the planning board, who looked at the plan and outlined these issues. Part of the problem they had is they wanted to have a one-way road circulation that went in on Maple and came out right next to the Henry Hudson Trail. And it was going to be a one-way driveway, and it was going to go over the wetlands and the Henry Hudson Trail buffer. And and then they were going to put culverts in there to pipe that wetland stream, which the water from Manchester all the way up to Green Grove flows down into that stream. Implementation of and there was no definition of a maintenance plan, and there was no, and this is a area which has a lot of stormwater issues. And then they were going to need freshwater permits, and so those were issues that never got resolved. Then on top of that, on the right side, if you look at the neighborhood harmony, they wanted a density that was more than 20 units an acre. They wanted to put 43 units on 2 acres.
Mr. Lane, with all due respect, we're at 10 minutes, and as you know, we usually keep public to 5 minutes each. And these are all things from 10 years ago, but I understand your concerns on that property, but is there anything you would like to wrap up on?
All right. What I wanted to do was talk about how we can get this information to Beacon Electric, or Beacon Planning, so it doesn't get overlooked. The final sheet of paper I gave you was after multiple public hearings. There's 7 bullets. The residents very much wanted to see the industrial site gone, okay? They didn't have any problem with the architectural concept. This is important input, and I think members of the council need to be aware and take time to go back and look at the history.
We will, Mr. Lane.
I'm trying to make sure you do. And that the site needed to be cleaned up, and that the reduction of density was the big issue. And there was a team of residents, and this is why I mentioned earlier I'd like to see the opportunity for residents to give input. There was a team of residents that put together a set of plans where the architectural characteristics of the site were there, but really worked on resolving the issues with the greenbelt area, the outside road buffering from the RA zone. So we have all this data, and we would like to be in the loop at the front end of the process. And that's my input.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
Any questions?
Once we review it, we might have some. Thank you.
I look forward to.
Anyone else from the public on the consent agenda items? Have a motion to close.
Motion closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
As Councilman Good already commented, and I believe Dennis, Councilman Papopoulos was in favor of that, and since I didn't see it till I walked in on the dais also, I would like for a motion for approval of resolution 211 through 218.
Motion.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes, however, I have to abstain from paying the bills because I was not provided with them.
Councilman Pacheco? Councilman Pataplia?
Yes.
Councilman McDermott?
Yes. Okay, now we're gonna have our public hearing on the application for the dock improvement permit.
Madam Mayor, before we move on, I just got a quick question because something you just said. R220, if you didn't see it, how did it end up on our agenda?
I think you know that I sent an email out to you.
And I think I sent an email back that said, no, we're late, so how to get on?
I don't think that was a vote, and I didn't hear from anyone else, so you certainly have the ability to pull it off as you did this evening.
But that's not the point. The point is, you just said our agenda. You didn't hear from anybody else, you didn't hear from the mayor. The only person you heard from was me, and I said take it off. But you decided to put it on anyway?
Yes, I did. I thought it was a timely matter, and that you could take it off if you didn't wish to vote on it.
What else has come in the last couple days? Since Wednesday, so what else has come in that we haven't put on the agenda? Anything else?
There's usually something added every council meeting.
I know, but we've
And for
been
6
trying to
months,
stop
we have
that.
said that a week before the
This is
agenda is
true.
closed. And
This
there
is
was
true.
a reminder email sent about that last week.
You're
So
still
the
talking
same,
about something
the same thing. Listen, I mean, again, it's a question of, I don't know what else has come in over the last, since Wednesday. If anything else come in that maybe we want to add on as a timely matter, but we don't know about.
No, if there had been, we would have added it.
Actually, there was something that I didn't allow on the agenda that was somewhat time sensitive, so.
So that's my point. I mean, the mayor sets the agenda, she didn't see it, but now you're setting our agenda.
She's the borough clerk, and she also said that, the state had influence over this.
Yes, I received a call from the state today asking to add it.
Oh, wait, the state asked to add it
I
to our
understand
agenda?
that the state does not set the agenda, but they did ask me to add it to the agenda this evening. It's for your consideration, and certainly council has the ability to pull anything off that they didn't wish to consider.
Yeah, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I think moving forward, it's clear that nothing will be added to the agenda unless, I'm made privy to it, ahead of time. So, and the day of isn't privy ahead of time. So, we will be having a meeting to see how we can streamline the agenda, a little bit more. It's working. Thank you, Councilman Good, for your concern.
Was there a motion to pull it?
Yes.
Well, no, there was a motion to have the resolutions approved up until 2/18, so that 2/20 is not included.
There was a motion to pull it.
Right. But we can talk about it, right?
Councilman Good made the motion, and Councilman Patapos made the second.
Are we gonna open it to the public?
No,
We're pulling it.
table it.
Okay.
Mr. Gallo seems to.
I'm perplexed. I was under the impression that the motion was made to remove it from the consent agenda, but now you have to do something with it. Right, you have to vote on it separately. Or you could not vote on it, you know, you could move to table it, yeah, but I don't think that occurred.
Till, was it July 16th or something?
Yeah. Is there what if we do pull it? Are they gonna lose business? Are they gonna not be able to open? Or can they work under the,
They're able to work under the ad interim permit.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna revisit the motion that's on the floor, which was made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Patapoulos, to pull it. What would you like to do with it? Table it? I just need that in the motion.
I think that would table it.
Okay.
But I think Councilwoman Pacheco just made a motion to table it, we pulled it. Now Councilwoman Pacheco made a motion to table it, and it needs to be seconded.
I'm losing my voice now. I motion to table to July 16th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So now can we have an approval to approve R11 for 2/18?
Oh, we did that already.
Oh, right. application for dock improvement permit, applicant Al Whitwack for the improvement of the dock at 60 Walnut Street, block 137, lot 14. Resolution R2/1919, approving for application for dock improvement permit.
Point of order, just a real quick question. What, are we gonna open it up and public will comment and then we can ask questions, or should we ask questions first? How would you like to do that? I just have one question.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Can we step forward?
Sure. I'm a little slow still.
You're doing good though, Al.
Take care of your knees.
Mr. Litwack, you're the applicant here. Do you,
Yes,
as
I
part
am.
of this public hearing, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Alfred Letlock, 60 Walnut Street, Keyport, New Jersey.
Mr. Litwack, in front of the council tonight, we have an application pursuant to Chapter 12, Section 5 of the Borough Code to erect, improve, alter, extend a wharf, pier, bulkhead, dock, slip basin, docking facility, harbor, and harbor structure along the waterfront within the borough limits. Could you please provide us some information as far as this application?
Sure. Has everybody seen the application I put together? I do know that one question that came up was clearance under it. Would it be appropriate for me to address that now?
Please do, yep.
May I give these out?
Just so the record's clear, the property address is 60 Walnut Street, Borough of Keyport, lot 137, lot 14.
That is correct.
So, Mr. Litwack, before you begin, could you just please give us an overview of what the project is?
Sure. I live down on the waterfront. I have a bulkhead down there. Varies in height above the sand, probably anywhere from about 5 feet typically to 6 feet. I have grandkids, which is the real reason why I'm trying to do the dock, that like to kayak, and it's very tough, number one, for them to get down to the beach, number two, to get through the beach. The beach at that point becomes pretty trash stuff, dead fish, stuff like that. So what I'd like to do is replace a dock that was there. In fact, the pilings are still there. I believe it was before the Petersons actually would put it in, and put a float out at the end of the dock where the kids can go out there and take the kayaks off the floating dock and go kayaking. I have a rowboat, I'd like to run it off of there, strictly for personal use.
You're the owner of this property?
Yes, I am. My wife and I.
Can you give us a little bit of background on the nature of the construction?
Basically, we'd be putting in pilings to construct the dock. It would be approximately 40 feet wide. It would be approximately 60 feet out into the bay, which is actually, I think, a little bit shorter than the original dock that was there. It would be out in our riparian rights. Basically, the span between the pilings would be about 10 feet, so there would be, they'd be placed out 10 feet apart, going out 60 feet.
Are there existing pilings now?
There are, we'd be building over the top of them, primarily because with the kayaks and stuff, I don't want anybody hitting those pilings. So as long as the existing pilings are under the dock, I think that would be the safe thing to do.
your application, makes reference to the fact that the new dock will have, I'm reading from the application, the new dock will have the same footprint as the old dock, and will be built over the old dock pilot.
Actually, it's going to be a little bit less. It was a T-dock originally, and we're going to come out and we're going to go 6 feet if you're going out to the left, but we're not going to go to the right like the original one did.
Was the original one 40 feet wide?
No, not 40 feet, I'm sorry, 4 feet.
Oh.
Did I say 40 feet?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, man. Good. I almost went bankrupt.
Mr. Lewick, we've referenced the pilings a few times that are already existing, and I know we have pilings right in the borough at our own boat ramp. Just this year, we had to have a shared service type of thing with the yacht club to bring in the company to put in the new piling. Are you certain that the pilings that are there are secure enough and wouldn't come loose in a storm and perhaps cause damage?
Here's my dilemma. I'm not opposed to pulling them out. The instructions, I sit on the Harbor Commission. I'm the chair of the Harbor Commission. And we've discussed it quite a bit. They seem secure, and people are afraid if you pull them out, you're going to expose chemicals and stuff that are embedded into the ground underneath unnecessarily. Again, I'm not opposed to pulling them out. I don't know environmentally what is better to leave them in there or to pull them out. I've been led to believe, non-scientific, that it's better to leave them there. Sure.
So regarding sustainability and repairing, just for my clarification, so if the pilings do get loose, you're gonna make sure that gets repaired and the dock is put back to.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
The height, I guess, is on the handout, so, I don't know, was the original dock, you can 6 to 7 feet?
I believe it was lower. My intent is not to restrict any access back and forth there. It gives you, if you look at the picture with that handsome fellow right there standing in front
I
of
thought he
it.
looked a little familiar, I wasn't sure, I was a
That
very
was
good height reference.
That was actually taken a couple hours ago.
You changed quickly.
No, I got the same pants on, same underwear on, but I did dress up for this occasion.
Thank you.
I figured this is pretty important. Not as nice as Dennis, but then again, who can be as nice as Dennis?
Thank you.
But my intent is not to restrict access. One of the problems I have is really determining where the mean high water mark is there. But my intent would be to have a minimum of 6.5 feet above wherever that high water mark is to get under there. You also have one other problem there. At high water, you can't walk through there anyway because you've got water at the street that comes right up to the bulkhead. It's a great town. The people that walk down there are great. I go down there once a week and clean up, but I'll tell you, other people in town, I see them walking through there picking stuff up, dead fish, trash cans, beer bottles, things like that. It's a good group of people that come through there. I would not want to restrict them in any way.
And are you concerned at all that public may want to utilize your dock for fishing, because you know that that's a high volume fisherman area? As you know, I'm down there for sunset quite frequently. And are you concerned at all that anyone may utilize your
I'm not particularly concerned. We get people in our backyard every once in a while. I don't think there'll be a lot of people because it's going to be pretty high up. And we're not going to have steps from the beach down up to the dock. But, you know, it's a great town. I can't.
I just have one final question.
Sure.
So the height of the dock coming out is gonna be where your bulk, the top part of the bulk?
It's going to be at least the top of the bulkhead, if not a little bit higher. My
So you're gonna
intent,
go right from your yard down into it?
yeah, I'm gonna go right from the yard
Extend it.
out.
Okay.
I may raise it up a little bit depending on where that high, water mark is, because I wanna keep it, like I said, about 6.5 feet above wherever that high water
And
mark
that's when you're
is.
gonna have a passageway for people to still walk under?
Still walk under it,
Okay, thank you.
Al, if you need to, you're gonna build steps up to it, right, from your yard?
yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can we, reference the, borough engineer? Do we have to swear him in?
Mr. Tower?
Our engineer, you're driving me crazy.
In a good way.
Not in a good way.
In a good way for us. that
Not
he's
in a good way at
representing
all.
us.
Which isn't a long trip.
I've been doing battle between our engine, and I'm gonna pick on you a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure.
But I'm doing battle on between what our engineer wants and what the state is telling me, hey, you got permission, just do it. And, you know, you've got riparian rights, you know, there was an existing dock, we looked at it, we sent you an email, the email should be good enough. And I actually included on the back of this responses from the state on it. I'll be glad to do whatever you guys want. I just don't know. I've been working on this a year. And the state keeps saying, you know, you got everything you need, go forward. And I'm not sure, if you look at what I wrote to the state, I actually quoted what you asked me to do. Now, they've referred it to more people to see if they can come up with something. But I'm pulling my hair out. I don't have much left.
Mr. Taylor, before you get started, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state your name and position for the record?
Sure. Trevor Taylor, CME Associates, the Borough Engineer's Office.
All right, Mr. Taylor, did you have an opportunity to review materials submitted by Mr. Litwack, the applicant, in support of this application?
I did, yes.
In front of the council is a letter dated October 4th, 2018. It's part of the public record, part of the agenda tonight. It's signed by you. Is this a letter that you prepared?
Yes, dated October 4th, 2018.
Can you please go through what you reviewed as part of this application and what your findings were?
Sure. The first thing that I reviewed, there's a plan of survey that was submitted with the application dated April 15th, 2014, as well as a site plan that Mr. Litwack submitted with the application dated July 10th, 2018. There's also an email from Kara Turner of the DEP stating that she discussed the application with Mr. Litwack on the phone. They have no objection to it as long as it's located within the existing footprint of the existing dock structure. And the problem from my side is I don't know what existed there previously. There's no exact historic aerials that show exactly what's submitted there. So I requested a letter from the DEP stating that they've not just done a conversation, but they reviewed the plan. And now, you know, can you provide us with a letter that says they have no objection to it, that it was a pre-existing structure, and that they have no objection to the reconstruction of a pre-existing structure. So essentially what I'm recommending is that Mr. Litwack get a letter from the DEP indicating in writing that it was an existing structure and they have no objection to the construction of it in its original footprint.
Can I respond to that?
One second. So just going through the list of documents, you referenced the plan of survey, the dock site plan, and the email from Ms. Turner with DEP. With regard to the construction of the dock, as proposed, I guess, in the dock site plan, what were your findings?
My findings was that, you know, as long as he obtains a construction permit from the construction office, I have no objection to it. I will say that I did also check the height because I was concerned with the access on the beach, and I agree it's about 5.5 feet from where the sand is up against the bulkhead to where the existing bulkhead is, and that does taper down from the bulkhead down into the water. So like at low tide, you should have plenty of clearance if you even match the existing bulkhead to walk underneath it when you get close to the water.
At low tide, it's actually about 10 feet.
So if you are going to put it about 6.5 feet above the bulkhead, then that's even more clearance to walk underneath it, you know, between the bulkhead and the water. At high tide, the high tide line is almost at the bulkhead currently, so you're not going to be walking through there. anyway without getting your feet wet and walking through the water.
Could you please describe for the public and for the council's consideration the letter of no interest from DEP, what that would entail?
So, sure. So typically, when you have a plan, you can submit it to the DEP with any backup information they request and say, here's what we're looking for. We're asking for an exemption under the specific code for reconstruction of a dock. And typically, the DEP will send you a letter back saying we take no exception, or we give you what's called a letter of a determination jurisdiction letter that basically says whether you need a permit or not. So that's another avenue you can go. If they don't want to just give you a letter, they can give you a JD, jurisdiction determination, that says you do or don't need a permit. That's something that the DEP does offer on a regular basis.
Have you had experience trying to get one of those out of the DEP?
Yeah, it takes a while. It could take several months, but they do submit them.
Any other questions for Mr. Taylor?
Councilman Good, did you have a question?
No, that was.
So is there a roadblock right now that's preventing, based on the letters that I've seen, my understanding is that there's not. He can proceed if we, at the moment, am I correct about that? Or?
Don't have DEP letter, right?
Well, the DEP, so the DEP is asking for what again?
No, our engineer.
I'm asking for a letter from the DEP. The DEP has given an email that says, based on a conversation, they have no objection to it. But what I'm asking
If I can also,
is a letter.
if I can also clarify, they were the one that found the photograph of the dock and that's attached to your document, and they were the ones that said that it was covered by an existing dock.
So just for a matter of record, for the public, what we were handed this evening was information, email from two representatives of the DEP. The first one indicating before they go through and start helping you with the alert form. Is that what you're referring to, Mr. Taylor? Is it alert form?
That is part of the application. I don't think I have that correspondence.
It says that they noticed that you received a letter from Kara Turner saying that a permit was not required to rebuild your dock. So do we not have that?
I don't think I have that.
So I think he provided it this evening, and the
Okay.
fourth page of his packet that, did you get a packet? No, you want one? That could be part of the problem right there.
Here,
See,
you can have my copy.
So,
I'm sorry, Mayor, just for the record, and for the purposes of this hearing, we'll mark this handout that the applicant provided as A1, applicant 1, for the record,
okay,
so we can refer to it as such going forward.
thank you. Do we need all, can we just do the whole packet as A1, or do you have to do each piece?
This
If there's
entire
stuff in it.
packet
Okay.
stapled together will be A1.
Thank you. So, Mr. Taylor, if, again, we just got this evening, so we didn't have time to review this, but if you look at the last page, it seems to be an email from the DEP dated September 5th, 2017, indicating that the permit is not required. So is that sufficient for what you were saying as far as getting permission from the DEP? And then the second page of this packet references that email again, that this is a different DEP representative.
I think what, I'd like to review this, and then if you make a motion to approve it, I can condition, or you can condition your approval on me reviewing this and getting back and saying everything's acceptable.
Sure, I can understand that and respect that. Obviously, we just received this tonight. This
That's-
would have been
absolutely.
beneficial if this was in our packet for us to have reviewed. And I think putting Mr. Taylor on the spot to do that.
I apologize if
No,
I did
that's
that.
fine.
That was not my intention.
No, I understand. It's great that you found it, so you may actually, just so we don't go with just hard copies, maybe for.
Do you want me to
record.
send the original?
That would actually be great, I think.
Okay, who should I forward that to?
So that we have a matter of record email, the two emails that you're referencing in this packet.
Okay,
think
I
that
did,
would be great.
I did forward the first one. I'll forward the second one.
Do you agree? Do you agree?
I want it to be reflected that both the proposed resolution to R219-19, the resolution conditions approval already on three conditions that Mr. Taylor set forth in his October 4th, 2018 letter. I think that based on the borough engineer's recommendation, if the fourth condition is to be added to that, at the council's discretion, if they want to review, and add the borough engineer's review of the document to mark as A1 as a further condition of approval, if that's how the council wants to proceed.
Councilman Patopoulos had a question.
I'll defer to whoever was on the other side.
Councilman Gill?
No, I was just saying that the letter of no interest is, I think Al's saying the email is essentially the letter of no interest, so it's not really adding a fourth condition, it's just kind of a, whether or not the email is satisfactory enough for our engineer to say that that's
It might provide an escape,
equal to.
a path forward. In lieu of not having that other letter.
I mean, is it, I personally don't have it, you know, as long as it's contingent on whether or not you'll take that email, I don't have a problem
Right. To
going
me,
forward today, so I mean,
well, we should go forward with
Yeah.
it, right? Yeah.
I guess that's my
It's
question.
still his review.
You have to respect the engineer's review.
Condition on its review.
Whoa. What do,
I love
it's like a planning board vote. If we vote today contingent, with that,
Yeah.
you know, Trevor's recommendations are met, and we approve it based on that contingency, then,
That's what I think we
That's
should
all
do.
saying.
Yeah.
right, and, that's what we're in agreement about it. I don't know, I don't understand what you said, what you were talking about, Joe, but that's what I'm saying. Let's approve this.
Yeah, like,
So we don't
do we have
hinder
to
the
make a motion
progress.
that specifically says it's contingent, or what?
It's
what you're
already,
saying?
it's already.
It's already
It's in there,
contingent.
yeah.
That's my question.
And so it's just left to the engineer now to determine whether or not the email satisfactorily meets the requirements and contingencies. Okay.
Councilman Sheridan, go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do is put A1 into, like what you were talking about, what the counselor was talking about, and that gives it like an and or, because he's looking for a specific letter, a specific title for a letter, but this might work instead of that.
Right.
Right, okay.
Then
So
we
we're
agree.
saying this. Anyone on the other side of the dais before we go to the public?
Motion
Okay.
open? Sorry.
That's okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public wish to come forward to speak on this particular?
George Wallen, 54 Second Street. Just for a couple of clarifications, package A1, there's numerous pages in there. Should they also be documented as A1 with number of pages?
We've marked them as A1 simply because they're together. It's a picture, a diagram, and two separate emails. Because they're affixed together, we can.
Yeah, okay, you stating that now, you did not state that prior, so packet A1 was what? how many
Those three
pages?
separate documents.
Thank you. Nothing against you, Dennis, but you just said, let's vote on it and approve it.
With the contingency.
Is your mind already made up that it's a yes?
No. Well, if the contingencies are met, absolutely, just like we would do in a,
Yeah, but wouldn't it be, let's take a vote and let it forward then?
I think it's still state his preference prior to the vote.
I know, it seems like he's already made up his mind, but he wants.
He may,
And he
has.
And he said it openly.
I don't see.
I
anything wrong with
said I'd like to approve it, I'd like to vote to approve it, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll make the motion.
I think the wording was, I think we should vote to approve it.
And that's my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plum.
May I make a public comment?
Oh, you're public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hear.
Very quickly, in the future on these, it would be, I think a great thing to run this by the Harbor Commission first, just something to think about.
Mr. Ling?
Hello. Hey, how you doing? Mike Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. And I've
you and I have communicated, so.
Yes, we have.
None of this is gonna be a surprise. I want to, applaud Al for the suggestion that at the bulkhead, he add another foot or two of elevation. And a couple of reasons. I also have a pier on the waterfront, and, before Sandy and I reconstructed the bulkhead and raised the pier, the kids used to come down and climb up on the pier. And Anne Marie and myself and my other neighbor were telling the kids all the time to get off the pier. And we have posted no trespassing signs on the pier. But these kids, 10, 12, 15, on the pier constantly. So I recommend elevation. Now, with my new bulkhead, they now use the whalers as a ladder to climb up, to get on the pier. So the pier is an outstanding attraction to the kids in Keyport. And so I recommend that you make it a condition that at the edge of the bulkhead, it be at least high enough that the kids can't reach up there and hoist themselves up on it, which would be probably the decking at the bottom of the joist at least 6 feet high, which would put the decking into close to 7 feet high. Secondly, at the end of the pier, there's a floating platform, right?
That was my intent.
Right. Now, the borough has experience. You have floating platforms on your pier, right?
We have them off the pier and at the boat ramp.
And what happens to them in the winter?
They come in.
They come in. And what happens to the floating piers at the yacht club?
They come in.
They
So
bring them down the river.
Yeah, so is there gonna be a requirement that these, floating pier be removed come November? And if you look at the history, if you look at the Strategic Recovery Planning Report, the amount of damage that was done, significant damage by floating piers. So if it applies to the piers that the borough has, shouldn't it apply to the private piers?
So they're actually planning on removing it
Uh,
seasonally?
Well, I have two choices. I can either replace it every year because it'll be gone at the end of the winter, or I can remove it. And since what I'm planning to use is probably a jet ski type of a dock, I'll just pull it up on the dock.
As well as storm related, if a significant storm is approaching, you can also.
Yeah,
pull the-
absolutely.
Okay. How big is the floating? I misunderstood.
What is
I thought
a jet ski dock? It's about,
Are you doing a 1 or 2 slot?
oh, it's one slot. How big is that?
Oh, when I looked at the drawing, it looked to me,
9 by 5 or something like that.
Yeah, no bigger than that.
all right, so it's not 10 by 20 or anything.
I don't have the whereabouts to pull something that is much bigger out of the water.
All right. So, a requirement that it be pulled out of the water.
And if I can address one other point, I don't mind kids going up there. One of the cool things about where I live is that the high school and the grade school kids come down there all the time. I'm planning to run for school board, and the reason I'm doing that is because I talk to the kids down there all the time. You really get to know the town when you get to know the kids, and that's a way to get to know the kids.
Yeah, the issue is that the dock, as you indicated, will be at low tide, maybe 8-10 feet above the ground. And kids horsing around on the pier, one of them goes over the side, and they may end up with as much hardware in their neck as I have. The other thing is, and I looked at your design. Trevor, do you have any design experience on piers?
Yes.
All right. Can you compare the robustness of this design with the robustness of the pier that the borough has? For example, the cross braces to keep the ice from lifting the piles?
You're talking about the fishing pier?
Yeah.
So So I think the cross bracing, I'm not sure what the, I have to check the pile spacing on there, but I believe that the pile spacing on those is gonna be a little bit more than what is proposed in this application.
Yeah.
But I can definitely check that.
Yeah.
And see if there is a requirement for cross bracing.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
need cross bracing because it's well known that the yacht club, almost every winter, the piles that are not cross braced pop. And yacht club just spent a huge amount of money to have.
Why don't you come down and, as we're building it, you can give us your advice.
I'm happy to have you come look at my pier.
I wish I did.
The Borough pier. You're welcome. The vents are, well, you look at the yacht club here, the vents are double.
Mm-hmm.
The joists are all interlocked. The piles are more than a foot.
Well, let's sit down and go
foot
through
in
it.
diameter.
I'd look forward to the place.
Yeah, and as I said, I sent you an email with most of this stuff. Okay, those are my comments.
Thank you.
I have a question, actually. Actually, in deference to what Mr. Walling brought up, you're right. I mean, now that I've heard what Mr. Lane said, maybe it's not, we should approve it right off the bat. But I would ask, does the pier, does the boat, what are you calling it, a jet ski?
You've seen those white
Yeah.
jet ski type, where you pull the jet ski up?
Since it's part of the plan, should we have a requirement in the resolution that it needs to be maintained and removed? That's actually, Mr. Lane would tell you that it's actually part of,
I don't, the only reason I didn't include that is I considered that the same thing as a boat. It's a floating device, and I'm gonna pull the boats out every winter too. I'm not gonna leave the boats in there either.
okay.
Madam Chairwoman, if I may, the issue at hand is anticipated to be addressed under the flood damage control ordinance.
Right.
That would have requirements that such structures be removed, and we can include seasonally or in the event of a storm in anticipation, that sort of thing.
And the strategic storm plans.
Right, it would be codified in another place in the ordinances.
Yeah, and I'd be glad to include that anywhere because I have to do it anyway.
Anyone else from the public?
Yeah, I recommend you approve Al's proposal with the condition, the planning board puts conditions in all the time. The condition that the floating section be removed come November and until April, and that it be removed for severe storms, and that the air, at the bulkhead, the elevation be at least 6 feet under the joist. And I recommend you approve his plan with those conditions.
Anyone else from the public? Mr. Grant?
All yours.
Elmer Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. I'm just gonna keep it simple here. Just my favorite saying is cut through the mumbo jumbo here. And from what I've heard tonight, I recommend that you approve this and stuff like that and see where it goes from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Any further commentary by Mr. Litwack or engineer or council?
Motion closed.
No, Mayor.
Mr. Litwack, do you have any further commentary?
No, just thank you for your time.
Council?
Oh, can I, there's some errors in the resolution.
The date, apart from the date?
Yeah, you got the date,
This was originally, I was gonna go on the record with that before the council voted, but if you'd like to.
the date is wrong. It talks about a dock improvement, it's actually a dock construction. There's no existing piles that
There are piles there.
that are gonna be used.
That is true.
There's not a piece of lumber that's gonna be used in the new dock. So it's not an improvement, it's a new construction. And I think you just ought to note that in the.
It's messing with the scope of it.
one second, Councilman. Okay, go ahead. So is the intention to move public, whatever, dock improvement to be dock reconstruction? Are we gonna actually change the title on that, or whatever, he's gonna make some changes, I guess? Do we need some motion for that? That's my only question. So, actual resolution, and the application is circled for, improvement as opposed to, so,
I think because it's built off of.
here,
So the discussion is,
here in the table.
the application, notes that this is an improvement to an existing dock. The application also notes that the dock will have the same footprint as the old dock and will be built over the old pilings. So that is why it was indicated apparently that this is an improvement on the dock. The resolution also references that, it's a reconstruction, so.
Would it help the committee if I put one of the pilings next to one of the existing ones and ran the nail through it?
I really think that we're debating something that is pointless, in all honesty. If we want to call it a dock project, how about we just do a dock project? Does that make everybody happy?
The reason it's drafted the way it is because the ordinance makes reference to each of these types of construction. I defer to the council as far as how they want to name the resolution. I don't think it alters the plan submitted to the borough and then reviewed by the borough engineer, but as far as clarifying, I defer to council.
I think it's important that everybody knows that there's current pilings there, and that he's not gonna use any of the pilings, and he's going to improve upon that footprint and create a pier that was there before. So, I agree with Mr. Good, you could call it improvement, you could call it reconstruction, you could call it whatever. I think everybody on this council knows what he wants to do, and I think that's what we're here to decide on.
And I believe it's also noted in the application, if you, look at the actual application to the borough, in his own description and handwriting, it says reconstruct a dock. The new dock will have the same footprint, so it's already referenced that it's a new dock on the footprint. I mean, there is possible confusion, because there really isn't a footprint, because you're not using the pilings that are there, obviously, or you wouldn't have a dock. So, I think it clarifies it within the application, personally. So, I guess the other, it's gonna be a matter of anyone on the dais wants any of the other things that have been brought up by the public into your motion. Otherwise, we'll just need a motion for, or not, so.
And just to also to further clarify, Mr. Gallo stated that the ordinance is to be adopted to cover the conditions that were referenced. I think it would be redundant for the council to, I mean, I think it goes without saying that any approval issued by this council would be subject to compliance with the borough code. So I think that as far as what the conditions that Mr. Taylor set forth, I think that should be limited to what the council considers. But the council is obviously free to take any action it wishes.
Okay, thank you. Can we close to the public? Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we need to,
With respect, this matter was previously scheduled to be heard on May 7th, 2019, before the mayor and council. It was adjourned until today's date, so there's the resolution 219-19 should reflect July 2nd as the date of the hearing rather than the originally scheduled May 7th, 2019.
So besides the date, do you want to include, evidence A1, to be given to the borough engineer as well? How else are we, memorializing that?
A1 is, it was entered into the record as part of this hearing. I don't think the resolution needs to specifically reflect that A1 was presented.
Okay, so that doesn't have to be included with the motion?
No, it's part of it'll be part of the record of this hearing.
Alright, if we're not gonna talk about it anymore, I'll make a motion to approve.
have roll call, please.
Yes.
Councilman Cooper?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pacheco?
Yes.
Councilman Patopoulos?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDermott?
Yes. Public hearing adoption of ordinance number 13-19, salary ordinance supervising account clerk, record support technician, and deputy court administrator. The clerk will read the ordinance by title.
Ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending and superseding the ordinance fixing the salaries of the various officers, clerks, and employees of the Borough of Keyport.
Can I have a motion open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? Mr. Graham?
Can we ask questions about Keyport, something that happened over 2 weeks ago, or just what's on the docket?
We'll
There
get to
goes
the
the
public.
second public portion at the end of the agenda, and then it
Oh,
can be on
okay, I
anything.
can talk, oh, that's all. All right, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Graham?
Elmer Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. I just have one question. Can you just more or less explain what this means
Sure.
for the public record?
The borough has a salary ordinance, as required by law. All salaries must be set by the governing body. In this particular instance, this change activates a number of titles that didn't exist before and adjusts one of the salary ranges for the third title.
Okay. And of course, it's beneficial to taxpayers.
It's required by law.
All right. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, if I don't get a chance to y'all, happy 4th.
Thank you. You can do it, Alma.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? Can I have a motion to close?
Motion closed.
Second.
Can I have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Sheridan?
Yes.
Councilman Cooper?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pacheco?
Is it me?
Yes.
Oh, I abstained, Sorry, everybody.
Councilman Patopoulos?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDermott?
Yes. Can I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as adopted?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain or opposed? Did you need to abstain, Councilwoman Pacheco, sorry?
Still published?
I don't know, I'm just asking. If she wanted to, just giving her that opportunity.
It feels appropriate.
Just giving her that opportunity.
Thank you.
Introduction of ordinance, an ordinance to amend parking restrictions on Madison Street. The clerk will read the ordinance by title.
Amending Chapter 7, Traffic to revise parking restrictions at Madison Street.
Motion to introduce.
Motion.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Sheridan?
Yes.
Councilman Cooper?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pacheco?
Yes.
Councilman Patopoulos?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDermott?
Yes.
Have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance.
Motion.
Correct. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain or opposed? Communications by consent for approval. We have items 1, 2, and 3, and I will elaborate further on item number 3. Mr. Gallo and myself had the opportunity to meet with representatives of the Garden Club, who also are the project managers on board to run the garden walk next year. The reason it was pulled last week was, last meeting was because there was a little bit of chatter going on as to some other options that were presented to us earlier in the year. But it's been clarified that the dates will be not June 6th and, it will be June 6th and 7th on 2020, just shift that, yeah. So I just want to clarify that that's why it had been tabled, and we had a very productive meeting with them last night. So-
Very, very impressive, actually. They seem very dedicated to having a successful event and to working closely with the borough.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to add that since we tabled it last time.
I have one question on number 2. In their letter, they requested a waiving of the fee. I didn't see it written on that.
You mean for approval, Okay. You mean it's not included in the communication part? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
it's not written down here, number 2. Did
But
you,
it is on there, so
Right.
it would, but I see what you're saying, it should be listed separate, so, if someone wants to, we have to open it to the public still, but, we can make that in the motion.
Okay, then I make a motion to open the public.
Okay. All in favor? Anyone wish to speak on the communications 1, 2, or 3? Or motion to close?
Close.
Second.
And we'll need an approval for the communications, Councilman Sheridan, if you wanna make, however you would like to make that motion.
Yeah, also on number 2, waiving of the fee.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Councilman Sheridan?
Yes.
Councilman Cooper?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pacheco?
Yes.
Councilman Patopoulos?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDermott?
Yes.
We have approval of minutes for April 16th and May 7th, because you believe there may have to be some extensions on each.
Yes.
I would need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, or?
I abstain from April 16th.
Aye.
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 And I from May 7th.
Okay. Anyone on the dais have any business? Anyone on the dais have unfinished business? Attorney's report.
Nothing through.
We have a motion to open to the public.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. She's coming forward, and then
Do I need to go there, or can I use my teacher's voice?
the microphone,
I have
please, so
to
then it
use
goes into the tape, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's right. Gailey Benedict, 120 Main Street, Keyport. I have 3 things. The first is, we went to take our branches to the recycle on Saturday, and we were turned away. So we took all the ones from the car and brought them back home. I understand there's a new policy with it. I really question 4 times a year branches being picked up, 2 of them being in the fall and 2 of them being in the spring. And I have a substantial amount, and I was one of a lot of people that were not happy on Saturday with it.
Can I just ask for clarification on why were you turned away? Did they indicate?
They told us that we could no longer bring our branches to the recycling center, and it was in our water bill, which I opened up when I got home. And it is itsy bitsy halfway through, but it says that we're only doing branches twice a year. Or not until September, I have to store them till September.
Councilman Patopoulos, are you familiar with this?
Yeah, this is actually, I've spoken to.
In my rant, I found Dennis mowing his lawn, so he heard me out on that.
Okay, so is this?
So the policy actually is, and I explained it to Ms. Benedict, that for now, first, the reason why we're not collecting at Florence anymore is because we're double handling the branches, moving them from Florence over to Rollo. We don't have people at Rollo manning the facility, so we can't collect branches there. For now, and maybe in the foreseeable future, if you have branches, we request that you tie them up just like you've done, and put them out at the curb and call DPW, and they'll come and pick it up. Is that accurate, Steve?
Pretty close, actually call, Donna Purcell,
Donna
the
Purcell.
Health Department. I think it's important to expand upon what Councilman Patopoulos has explained. As everyone on the dais is certainly aware, we entered into a new contract with a new trash hauler for the coming 5 years. It's a renewal with the existing company, which performed good service. But one of the changes we made in the contract is that we're not having them pick up leaves and branches anymore. The reason for that is because they were doing it, I believe, on a Saturday morning, and most people collect their leaves and branches on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday, and they would find themselves with this stuff to be picked up, and they'd have to wait weeks until the next collection Saturday morning. So we wanted to add some flexibility and have the ability for borough employees to pick those up. And as Dennis pointed out, there is no dumpster at the recycling yard for branches. There's one for leaves, but there's none for branches. So by bringing branches and brush to the recycling yard, they only have to be picked up again and brought over to Rollo Place where the dumpster is for branches. That it requires manpower and double handling. They would prefer, the folks from Public Works and the superintendent who sits on the recycling committee made the suggestion that they will do it on a call basis. If you have branches that need to be picked up, you call Donna, just like you would do it for electronics, and they'll come out and get it at any time. So you can just leave it at curbside bundled up and they'll pick it up and take it over to Rollo Place.
Is
Now,
she there all the time?
there's a machine, you can leave a message, you know, and to take this out to its conclusion, as I reported earlier, the recycling yard facility over on Florence Avenue, actually we're only using maybe about 60% of the land that we own over there. There's another section to the left of it, if you look at the front gate, that's overgrown and everything. I've asked the borough engineer to come up with a plan to fence that in and to grade it, remove the vegetation, and we're gonna move all the dumpsters from Rollo Place over to the recycling yard so that you can drop off branches there. The dumpster will be there. So if you could just bear with us for a short while that process takes place. We do think that at the end of the day, we're gonna be performing better service than we got from the trash hauling company, and hopefully allowing people to enjoy their weekends by picking up brush and leaves and getting them out of there without having to wait till the next collection day. But for the time being, we're gonna do it on a call. So, and we are sorry for the miscommunication.
Is there gonna be some way that the public is going to be able to know that it's going to be different? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of chatter out there, and we all see this as a health issue because rodents like to live in these nice little houses we've got. They're
Sure.
fire hazards, so, you know, it just.
We can do a communications effort on social media and on the borough webpage. And it, as you indicated, it did go out in the flyer, and it's not really teeny print, the same print as the rest of the
Well,
document.
it's not real big, well, it's
Yeah.
still
Understood.
pretty big.
We'll do a better job of communicating that to people and let them know.
My second
Hold on,
question.
just one second, for the members in the public that may not be familiar, the reason I referred to Councilman Patapos is because that's his area
His
of
area.
liaison, so I didn't
It's
want
kind of
anyone
a cross
out.
between DDW and,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
just
yes.
didn't want anyone, you know, thinking that I was picking on you.
I'm glad to be of service.
I have a concern about 127 Main Street. It's across the street from us. It's been vacant for easily 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I have talked to various people here, upstairs, appropriate people, and nothing seems to be done. The owner cuts the lawn, that's about it. The only one that's inhabiting it are squirrels who are becoming more abundant. It's becoming a little bit of an eyesore just in cleanliness. And I just am concerned because it should be red tagged. Nobody's living in it.
Is that the one on the corner?
Yes, it is.
Is it on the it's not on scattered site, right?
No, I mean, it sounds like the owner is maintaining at least the lawn.
He comes and cuts the lawn
Right, so
every
he
3 or
hasn't-
4 weeks.
And I don't know that there's a tax situation there that
Right.
wouldn't be eligible for scattered sites.
Okay.
I'll talk to the code enforcement people, and we'll take a look at it, and,
Yeah, if someone tried to go in, if there was ever a fire there or whatever, there's nobody living there, and they need to know that.
Mhm.
So, and as I said, I'm concerned about that.
Thank you.
And the third one is, there is so much chatter going around about Main Street and Broad Street being changed to a one-way street up and down.
Mhm.
Is that the case? When will that happen if it is? And which way are we going on Main Street?
It's interesting you should bring that up. I mean, this has been discussed as a possible demonstration project under Complete Streets to basically try a new paradigm, see how it works out. It would be a pilot program. If people didn't like it, if it didn't work out, it could always be changed back, because basically it's paint. I think the more pressing need is some attention on Broad Street, because it is way too narrow for the amount of traffic that goes up and down that street, and it's actually scary. And the discussion began with doing a demonstration project, but frankly, there's a lot of streets in the community that would benefit from becoming one-way streets. First of all, you could double your parking yield on some of these streets if they weren't two-way streets, because if you only needed a cartway for one vehicle, you could have parking where now it's no parking because it's a two-way street. And that's something that we expect to look at with, both with complete streets and
And
with
when
the
you,
parking
and when
study
you do
that we're
that,
gonna do.
just my one biggest concern,
Sure.
because it is an awful intersection, is Maple and Main.
Yeah,
And if you have people going out on Main Street,
yeah,
plan to put a traffic light on there, because
Sure.
there's no way people are gonna get out there safely.
but they go out there now, okay?
Well, but it's not a
It's only
one-way
one
street, it's
flow.
not
Understood.
everybody in the world going that
Sure.
direction.
Right.
And it's awful now.
Understood, and that was
Kaylee,
something
I
that
would,
was
I would
considered.
also like to piggyback off of that, if you haven't seen the Complete Street, concept yet, I encourage you, I'll sit down with you, it's really, unique, and there's so many municipalities that did trial and they all moved forward with adding more. Asbury Park is one of them, New Brunswick is another one.
I'm not totally against it, and I understand the reasoning, our streets are very narrow.
There's
and
actually another
parking-
reason, and it would be, to add a bicycle lane if we move forward with that. And the bicycle lane would hopefully reduce vehicle volume in those streets.
I'm just
So-
concerned that we would have 2 traffic lights,
Understood.
and we're just small areas. So, again, I'm just kind of wondering
Absolutely.
what's going on.
I do think it's important to point out that I was very surprised to find this out when I first started working here. The borough actually has no traffic signals. We don't own any of them.
I know, they're all owned by the
they're all
county,
the county.
and I know that too.
And-
So it's a matter of presenting to them that
Sure.
they'll need to put in.
Yeah, and, you know, we can certainly bring pressure to bear on them. It's important to note that a traffic signal these days is upwards of $150,000, $200,000. So, something that, but I understand the need for it, we should certainly look at it.
Okay, those are my concerns.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Jones.
Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir?
Thank you for having.
If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, it's Alan McDougal, 326 Riverdale Drive, Keyport, New Jersey. I got a little story. On June 23rd, me and my wife decided to go to the Keyport Flea Market to set up. Well, I arrived at like 5 after 6 with my pickup truck. Started to unload my table for my wife. As I was unloading my table, one of the vendors approached me and said, "You cannot park your truck like that." I said, "I understand, sir. I'm just unloading the table. When my wife shows up, I'll move my truck." So he walks away. He comes back a couple seconds later and he says, "Do you have permission to be here?" Well, I was stunned and I looked at him to make sure he was on medication. And then I said, "I do not need permission to be in a public place, as long as I pay my $15. I said, "You better just go back to your spot and leave me alone." I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
It's okay, take a deep breath.
So,
Very friendly.
I understand, so I said, "Just leave me alone." And he goes, "Well, pack your shit and get the hell out of here." Well, after that, I was not friendly after that. Now, I do not know who this guy was. Later on, I found out the guy's name was Neil, and he collects the money for the,
Kiwanis.
yeah, the Kiwanis, for the, you know, the thing. We've been there 3 times before. We never had a problem.
Okay.
So the guy next to me, after all this is going on, he goes like this, because I told the guy, "Leave me alone, just get away from me." I was not nice, I admit. So the guy, after the guy leaves, goes back to his spot, I walk over, I said, "I'm sorry to see, you know, you had to see that happen." He goes, "I can't believe he didn't make you leave." I said, "How can he make me leave a public parking lot?" "Oh, he made me leave 5 times. I said, "How did," he goes, "Yeah, I showed up at 5 in the morning, and he said all the spots were full, but the guy seen they weren't full." And he goes, why are these spots?" "Well, they're reserved." And I told the guy, I don't understand how somebody can reserve a spot on a public parking lot. So I was going to let it go because we were set up. My wife came, I explained to her, she goes, "Want to leave?" I said, "No." So I set her up, I left. And I go home, and I'm thinking, I said, it ruined my whole day. It ruined my whole day. So I go back, no less than 3 times. The guy goes by, he goes, "You guys got to be out of here by 3 o'clock, according to the town." I said, "I understand that." But I figured the guy's name, but I said, "Neil, I understand that. We'll, you know, take your money and get away. I don't want to talk to you no more." So he did that 3 times. So we pack up like 2:45. We put our stuff in the car. I said, let's go have lunch at Mike's Subs. So we go in there. We come out like 4:30, and there's still 5 vendors set up. You know, and the only reason I'm not letting it go, I had 3 vendors come up. A lady from Homedale been turned away 5 times now because she shows up at 5 in the morning. And I said, why are you turning? Oh, I didn't know the rules. So I'm here to see what are the rules. Is it first come, first serve, or do they get to run it the way they want? Because it's a public parking lot. That's what I don't understand.
I really appreciate you bringing these concerns to our attention.
No, it's a great thing. We get rid of our stuff we don't want, but everybody should have an opportunity.
I will say that the Kiwanis has a new president, and we've had the fortunate pleasure of being able to meet with him, and he has been open to any concerns.
I think he don't know what's going on.
I think we'll be very surprised.
He will find out by tomorrow morning.
Can I show you? This is the thing. And then the guy next to me said he never gives me a receipt. Now, basically that's a donation. And at the end of the year, I have an accountant because I don't want to get involved. The receipt he gave me is just written on a hand piece of paper. I can't give this to my accountant. I'll be in jail the next week. All he did was paid $15 to Fly Illness Club, the flea market, and then his name is Neil and Ace, the one that runs it. Because the guy next to me said that he won't give you a receipt. Well, I sent my wife. I didn't go because I would have been probably in jail by then. But this. How do we know who he's not keeping the money or not? A receipt book is to keep honest people honest. You know, they should have the letterhead with a number on it and stuff like that. Then he gives me this receipt. This is their policy right here, and it says after 6 o'clock, spaces will not be saved. I was there at 5 after 6. I drove around. I found 2 spots. There was nobody there. Then I find out later on, there are VIP spots that he saves for his friends, and that's why the lady, when I talked to the lady from, I don't know her name, but she said, I never got them spots. How did you, that's what brought everything up. I said, I pulled in there, but I said, he was not happy.
Okay.
All right, that's all I wanted, I'm sorry to, this is mere pittance compared to what you guys go through.
We appreciate you bringing this to our
This is
attention.
very important feedback. As I said, Mr. Gow and I have had a very open dialogue with the new president. So if I could give you my business card, so you can reach out to me, so we have a way to contact you after we
I will.
speak.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could just shoot me an email or call me the next day or two, and we'll reach out to him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to come forward? Can I have a motion? Keep it open. Mr. Rob.
I'll move that.
George Wallen, 52nd Street.
You have any evidence?
I wasn't here for the June 18th meeting. You had a resolution on there. Just give me 1 second. I think it was 207. 19, authorizing the creation of a 2019 Recreation Micro Grant Program. Upon seeing that and talking to a couple of people that attended the meeting, come to find out there was the resolution, so I opened the resolution, I got a copy of that. Nowhere in this resolution does it state that tax dollars will be used for this. It says the CFO confirms the money's there, blah, blah, blah. Then the roll call was taken, everybody voted, except you abstained.
I abstained, yeah.
Yes, can I ask you why you abstained?
I don't know that the reason has to be given if she doesn't want to.
Well, he's asking.
Okay, I'm just asking.
So as a newer member of the board, of the council, it was really a 50-50 decision for me. So I preferred to go with the majority vote to whatever that was gonna be. So I decided to exclude myself with the
The
abstain.
majority vote,
Yeah, because when you abstain, it goes towards the majority vote.
So the council voted 3-2 and 1 abstention, which passed the motion.
Right. But I understood that the mayor was very vocal in regards to this, and I got a copy of the tape,
Right,
and I
but
heard that.
if, again, with
So
the
with that said, if you would have voted no,
Then
it
the
would have
mayor
went to the
votes
mayor
yes.
to make a vote. So are we saving face for the mayor? Or was this just a decision that you said, well, I'm not gonna vote for it? So you voted for our budget, being that you're a new member and
Yes.
you weren't sure we were going to do anything because you're the last vote.
Mhm.
So you voted yes on the budget.
Yes.
You voted yes on the majority of everything else that came before you except this one item. Yet the mayor was very vocal of saying that she's against this.
And there were,
No,
so did
I'm-
other, we had 3 people who said yes for it, and we had 2 people who said no to it.
Right, but the mayor was
And the
very
mayor said
vocal
was-
according to the
was
tape that I
leaning towards a
listened
no.
to. She was
She didn't make
very,
a motion though, she didn't make a vote, so. we
I
don't
know
what
that.
the decision
She
was.
would have made a vote though if you would have voted yes or no. She wouldn't have made a vote.
She
If-
wouldn't have made a vote.
If
but
you
it
voted
was
yes, she wouldn't have made a vote. If you
Right.
would have voted no. So then, all right.
If your concern is with the motion, on my abstention is not the issue, you should have questioned other though, the yes.
No, your abstention is the
No, it
issue.
is not the issue.
Yeah.
I have a right to vote whatever matter I want.
I see that, and it seems like I said, 90% of the time.
There are many other instances where I abstained from things too that were legacy issues too.
I don't really see any of those in the minutes, but with that
Okay.
said, Mr. Sheridan, finance,
Yes.
allegedly this money was put away in the budget.
Not allegedly, not allegedly.
It's pretty good, your lips didn't even move.
There's 3 of us on finance, though.
I'm talking to
It's a
the
line
chair,
item under recreation,
right? Are you the chair?
yes.
Okay. Was this money put away in the budget?
It was a line item under recreation.
It's a line item on the recreation.
Recreation or general?
I believe it's under recreation, in the budget. It was allocated for this purpose in the budget.
It was, so it's
Yes.
a line item in the budget for that?
Yes.
All right, so knowing that as the chair of finance, why'd you vote no?
I listened to the discussion up here.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Padopoulos made a lot of good points. The mayor made a number of good points.
Of voting against it?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I voted by conscience.
But yet you created this budget with that line item, and I'm confused
I was
again.
part of the budget creation,
Yeah.
yes.
So, I guess, who else is on the finance? Yeah, and you both were in favor of this?
We discussed it. We discussed it in the past.
No, I'm just curious, like I said, my tax dollars are going towards this fund. It doesn't state anywhere in here that it's a fund. It states that it's a grant, all right, and then it says in number 3 that you can come to the office and get a copy of the application. So I go to the office to get a copy of the application, but there is no application.
There is an
There is
application.
an application.
Have it now, though.
There is an application, because before we went to a motion on that.
Can we please back up here for a minute?
Yeah.
Did I come into your office?
You did.
Did I ask you to see the application?
Yes.
Did you tell me there's no application?
I told her I didn't have the application.
Right, and did you say, oh yeah, thanks for reminding me, I'm gonna send an email to Steve?
Yeah, I had the application all
And I did get the
along.
application, and I did send it.
Well, it says it's available in the clerk's office, was it?
I don't know.
Wait, can I?
Well, if you had it all along, was it available in the clerk's office?
I don't know what's
As it
available.
states in this resolution.
Mr. Wallen, can I piggyback off of that, please? Because I did ask for the copy of the application prior to, and you did send it to us. So I understand that you sent it to myself, Valerie, and Steve. So that was prior to that meeting, I had asked for it.
How did you ask him for that?
I asked the clerk, because of the resolution that I received in the packet that weekend, it said
Right.
that there was to get it from the clerk's office. So I sent you an email saying that I need the application. You then said you didn't have it, and Mr. Opal replied with the application.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that you got it from me. No.
Right, but he replied to you and.
Prior to the meeting.
Okay, continue, Mr. Wallen.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No,
Continue.
this is really, really good stuff. I see my Oprah's being started tomorrow. So you're saying that you did, she's saying you didn't, he's saying, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Graham?
Thank you. If I may. Matthew Tebus, 56 Second Street. I'd just like to say thank you to the governing body on behalf of the Keyport Indians, Bayshore Buccaneers, KYAL, Keyport Mat Rats, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, and then any other organization in town that has children involved, has volunteers in this community, that has children involved, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, that we thank you for your dedication, your commitment and investment in the children of our community. Thank you.
Mr. Graham.
Thanks, Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Graham?
Albert Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. By the way, just having to add to what Mr. Walling said, he brought up excellent points there and everything like that. And having said that, Steve, as you know, I advocate for open government, get the sunshine out in the open and everything like that.
Certainly.
What's the latest, having said that too, what's the latest on getting these meetings televised on Channel 15, on the internet and everything like
Sure,
that?
as I reported earlier, we have a proposal to purchase equipment to do that. We just have to find the funding for it. It's, at the end of the day, it's probably gonna be about $10,000.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to come forward? Ms. Davis? Yes, Ms. Davis, sorry.
Jen Tevas, 56 Second Street.
Any relation?
You're not related to him?
Nothing goes. I'm just curious why people would be against this if the money was already budgeted for.
Because it's taxpayer money going to nonprofit establishments was my concern. The overall concept of supporting nonprofit establishments, I don't think you've had ever in town history probably had a stronger dais that supports all of the nonprofits in town. From any which way we can, every fundraiser you'll see us at, or any way we can help promote it. The Cub Scouts came up with an idea where they asked if they could use the waterfront to sell popcorn. It wasn't gonna cost us anything. It was a great proposal. We're trying it out to see if that works. We're open to unique ideas. The Kiwanis parking lot, they're a nonprofit and they're out there every Sunday. Clearly not in the best behavior, as we learned tonight. But to the point of the fact that we have plenty of things of our own programming that are not funded, and I'm not sure if you're familiar or if you listen to the TEEP, but we put on a 5K every year for our residents, and that requires the volunteers of the recreation committee to go door to door to every business in this town to raise the money to put that 5K on ourselves, because we don't have the money to fund it. So it's hard for me to sit and ask our volunteers to serve on our borough initiative committees and raise the money that we don't have. If you go over and see the new park over on Myrtle and Prospect, beautiful park. Look across the street, the tennis courts are a mess. Our residents replaced the basketball hoops themselves on 3 of our basketball courts in town. So until we can sustain our own programming, it was hard for me to justify. But I didn't have a vote, those were just my concerns. And I made those concerns public many times, as well as with meetings with council members. But it is not about the nonprofits and not wanting to support them.
No, I understand that.
And I had also offered multiple times to have a mayor's ball to raise that money so that it wasn't coming out of tax dollar money.
We can still do that.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, we can
So
still
there
do
was
that.
definitely compromise for several months discussed.
No, I understand that. Doesn't our rec committee already sponsor that? Because I was under the impression, and if that's
Sponsor what?
like the 5K.
They sponsor it by doing all the legwork themselves for free and then begging the businesses to sponsor it for funding. That's how we get the money to put on the 5K. The same thing with the movie nights. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, they cost anywhere from $300 to maybe $600.
We're told that's donated out in the public.
Right, because recreation doesn't have the money to pay for it.
Disney movies are expensive.
So if we're out there asking for funding for our own programming, it was, on record, hard to say that we can substitute someone else's funding.
What does the $55,000 for recreation go to?
the salary of, the recreation employee, and the other programming that we do for summer camp, and, I don't have it all in front of me right now, but,
Yeah, I mean, it goes to support various programs, it pays for a portion of the movie nights, you know, various recreation functions.
Right.
but I also wanna point out though, while you're up here, that, I do believe in democracy, and it came down to a vote, and I believe that we stand in solidarity.
No,
with how we-
I appreciate that, I'm just saying out in, out in the streets, we think, well, that is paid for by the recreation committee, the 5K, the Easter egg hunt, like.
And that's why you have to pay $35 or $30 to even participate in the 5K race thing also. So you have to pay to participate, plus we have to raise sponsorships for the shirts and all the equipment for the start line, the finish line, to pay the DJ, to order the glasses for the race, all of that stuff is, all done by 2 exclusive volunteers that go up and down, and that's where the sponsorships come on the back of the t-shirts.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Well,
So
I mean, it's
that's
not
why-
like the businesses aren't getting, they're doing it for a purpose and advertising. I mean, it's not like.
That's essentially the way 5K races are run up and
I
down the
mean, when
coast.
we do that for cheer when we go to nationals, we get t-shirt sponsors, I get the businesses are great in town because they support everybody. But taxes weren't raised for this, correct?
Taxes were
Correct.
utilized for it, but not necessarily raised, but we did raise taxes this year.
But not because of this.
No.
In general, no, but, I mean, they were raised, so I can't say specifically for this, no.
Okay, that was just my question.
Ms. Tevin? So part of what you entrust us with up here on the dais is to responsibly spend your taxpayer dollars, right? I look as a taxpayer at what the town, what the borough is investing in, and I'm looking for return. And I'm looking for ways to support citizens of the borough when they have a need, and it's not charity, right? But when there is an established need as a member of the governing body, and I can speak for some of, we're all looking for ways to responsibly spend taxpayer dollars and invest. This $15,000 that's going towards the microgrant program is gonna be a return. There's gonna be a return on investment. My anticipation is that, and my hope is that there's gonna be a return on investment that is gonna far exceed the $15,000. It might not do so in cash, but in goodwill, in investment in the community, in investment in some of the organizations in town that might need a little bit of help. We may not even use that $15,000, the whole thing, right? And if we don't, then that's fine. But my hope is that we use it as an investment, and I can think of no better investment than to invest it, starting with the kids, which is how this started out, and moving on to other organizations in town that might need it.
No, I appreciate that, I just wanted to get a couple questions answered.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't want you to
Go
think
to
that
you
we're
guys
throwing.
instead of asking
Right,
elsewhere.
yeah, we're not throwing away taxpayer dollars here, we're investing it.
Okay,
Yep,
all right, thank you very much.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mayor, may I have a comment on this?
Sure.
One of the things people make a mistake of thinking is that all of the businesses and everything here pays taxes and that's it. All of the nonprofits in this area have got to run their own ships, pay for their own expenses and so forth. At the food pantry, we're going from day one to the end of the year, raising money from all different funds to pay our costs. As far as the children go, I think nobody has any stronger need of supporting them than I do. Having been on the school board, having been on council, having been everywhere, we all have the same problem. We need more money. Coming down from Newark to here, I'm annoyed that there's not enough activities to invest in that's getting the support that's necessary. In Newark, you have the neighborhood house, the YMCA, YMHA, all the churches and all the other things, they support their own entities. But they're fiscally responsible enough to raise their funding for themselves, and they're managed accordingly. If the person, the manager, isn't able to do that, they get rid of him or her, they get rid of it, because they're not doing the job. Now, for people to think that like Ed Ballou or somebody over here, or this one, that one, the other one, has to give us all the money to finance our organization, that's nonsense. Everybody gets a little bit from different sources. When you run out of sources, you go over and over. It took me 12 years to raise the money to buy that $500,000 worth of food pantry we got up. I was told I wasn't going to get the land. I was told I wasn't going to get this. I was told I wasn't going to get that. I got them all. And I got them all why? Because I didn't depend on the town to do anything for me, because the town has already stretched themselves bare. I come here to be an asset to the township, not to be a burden. And the thing I take offense at is every time some person mismanages or doesn't do his job properly, he looks for somebody else to carry him out. My people are from the farms, and one thing we learned as children, is every tub sits on its own bottom. It's all right to ask someone to help you, but carry yourself. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Mr. Roll?
I'll have to say my name again, go on, George Wallen, 52nd Street. Mr. Cooper, with that speech, how come you voted no?
I voted no for that particular reason.
Do you want them to carry their own weight?
I want them to exhaust all the sources that's necessary before they come to us.
All right.
We haven't turned down anybody yet who came to us individually for a specific amount grant. But we don't want to be a blanket thing that's just open the coffers of the township to everybody.
Well, then I'm gonna ask you, why'd you vote yes on the budget?
Why did I vote yes on the budget?
Yeah, this was a line item on the budget that you voted yes for.
It wasn't presented to me as a line item.
It wasn't.
And, excuse me. At the time when you have line items, you don't know what they're gonna line out or vote in or vote out. You got a blanket thing. You have the whole total bill.
So
And that's what I voted on.
So there was no particular line item
No.
in the budget for this $15,000, you're saying?
I'm saying that I didn't know that particular item would be voted in or voted out. I wasn't voting for that one particular item. I was voting for the entire budget in its entirety.
Well, did you ask to have that line item pulled?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
George, as you're probably well aware, the budget just sets parameters for it.
I
The actual
understand that, but if you
spending
have
occurs.
concerns, it was a touching speech,
No,
But the bottom line is, I'm asking why you voted no, and then now he's telling me he did. I understand why, and I asked him, why did he vote yes on the budget? If he doesn't understand the budget, if he doesn't understand on line items, why didn't he ask to have that one pulled and voted on separately the night the budget was adopted? Our taxes went up 2 cents. So thank you very much.
George,
that's the end of it.
I have nothing against supporting all of the things that they were mentioning.
I'm not saying you do, Cooper, but I'm listening to you out here.
It hasn't changed from when you were up here, George.
I know it hasn't. And
nothing's
again,
changed.
my record stood on its own. But the bottom
Yeah.
line is, you voted no. Now all of a sudden, it's because it was budget. You're telling these people, come before you guys and beg. They don't need to come and beg.
They're
all
not
right?
begging.
You guys took the opportunity, made it a separate line item. You didn't question it. It's all fine and dandy.
They don't have to beg.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else from the public wish to come forward?
Make a motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have anything for closed session?
We do not. Make a motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye. By the way,